Week 4 of the fantasy baseball season, and here's a few hitters I look to drop this week. The first guy, Riley Green of the Detroit Tigers. So Riley Green, he was a highly touted prospect over the last few seasons in the minor leagues. But so far, last season, in 376 at-bats, we didn't see much from him. 5 home runs, 42 RBIs, and a 253 average. And so far this season, more of the same: 2 homers, 5 RBIs, 11 runs, 81 at-bats, 2 stolen bases, a 235 average, and a 287 on base. So that on base is not a good number at all, only 287. Batting average is down there in the 230s. And the last 2 weeks, he's really struggling. Is Green. 1 home run, 2 RBIs, 5 runs scored, a 196 average, and a 245 on base percentage. So right now, he's not getting the job done. I know fantasy owners, they want to give these young guys a longer leash early in the season. But if you're down there in the standings, you're not going to wait around too long before making a move and dropping these guys. April 18th, versus the Guardians, 4 for 9 in that one in a doubleheader, a homer, an RBI, 2 runs scored, a stolen base. April 19th versus the Guardians, 0 for 4. April 21st at Orioles, 1 for 4. April 22nd at the Orioles, 0 for 3. April 23rd at the Orioles, 1 for 5. And April 24th at the Brewers, 0 for 4 with an RBI. So right now, Green, he's going to play every day. He's a young player on a young team that obviously don't have much hitting, and he's batting in a prime position, second and third usually, for this Detroit Tiger team. But right now, while things aren't working out and he's not producing, he's a hitter I would drop this week. No doubt he could get hot and get things going, and you could get back to him. But this week here, I wouldn't hold on to him. The next guy's Miles Shaw of the Cleveland Guardians. So Miles Shaw, he's a guy that got off to a hot start in the first few weeks of the season, but now he's really cooled off quickly on the season. No home runs, 6 RBIs, 10 runs scored, 7 stolen bases, a 260 batting average, and a 349 on base. So right now his on base percentage is great. His stolen bases are good, but he's a guy that's not going to drive in runs, and he's not going to hit home runs, obviously. Last season, 32 RBIs with no home runs and a 220 average, and right now he's quickly falling down there. A few weeks ago, he was one of the top pickups, but he is still only 50% of fantasy leagues this year. But the last couple weeks have been a train wreck. 195 average with no homers, 2 RBIs, a stolen base, and 3 runs scored. So right now he's still playing almost every day for this Cleveland Guardian team. Batting ninth usually is a double leadoff type of player, but he's just not producing. If this guy's not getting on base and not stealing bases, he pretty much has no value. April 18th at the Tigers in a doubleheader, 1 for 7. April 19th at the Tigers, 0 for 4. April 22nd, another doubleheader versus the Marlins, 1 for 7 with a run. April 23rd versus the Marlins, 0 for 4. And April 24th versus the Rockies in that one, 1 for 3. So right now, not really hitting the baseball. Batting average dropped quickly in the last couple weeks here, from the high 300s all the way to 260. So right now, while Shaw's struggling and not playing to his strengths, what he could give fantasy owners, he's a hitter I would drop this week. The next guy is Javier Baez of the Detroit Tigers. So a few seasons ago, Baez, he was playing great baseball with the Cubs and then getting traded to the New York Mets, and the Mets wanted him back, but they didn't want to go that extra year to the 6 years like the Tigers did. And right now the Mets are looking smart. They're letting Baez walk in the last 2 seasons now with this Tiger team. He hasn't done much. Last season was a down year for him. 17 homers, 67 RBIs with a 238 average. The average we know throughout his career, usually 230s to the 260 range, but this season we haven't even seen the power from him. No home runs, 8 RBIs, 5 runs scored, 2 stolen bases, a 203 average, and a 253 on base. So right now he was even benched in the ball game early in the season for not hustling Javier Baez. And we know he got the big 6-year contract, and he's not living up to it, and he's just not doing much. I don't know if it's not enough protection, obviously, in that lineup over there in Detroit, or he's a guy that got his money now and he's taking it easy and not working on his craft. But whatever the case may be, he's not a player you want on your fantasy team right now. And he's still only 53% of fantasy leagues, and he might be washed for all we know his bias. April 18th versus Cleveland, 2 for 8, 2 RBIs. April 19th versus Cleveland, 1 for 4. April 21st at the Orioles, 1 for 4 with an RBI and a stolen base. April 22nd at the Orioles, 1 for 4 with a stolen base. And April 24th at Milwaukee, 2 for 3 with a run. So I'll say this week and a half, he's hitting a little bit better as Baez. But like I said, he's known for his power, and the power just hasn't been there now in the last season and change. So right now, while he's not doing anything, and he's hitting in the low 200s his bias. He's an easy drop this week, no doubt. Maybe he'll find it, but I don't know. I think his best days could be behind him, unfortunately. For Javier Baez, the next guy's Brandon Drury, the Los Angeles Angels. So Drury last season, a great breakout year with the Cincinnati Reds and the Padres. But now this season, it's been a down year, and the Angels, they just never seem to get it going with free agents. I know a few guys have panned out here and there, but over the last few seasons, besides Ohtani, Anthony Rendon's been a bust for the most part. And now Brandon Drury's going that way as well this season. 1 home run, 5 RBIs, 5 runs scored, a 179 batting average, and a 208 on base, where last season he had the monster year, 28 home runs, 87 RBIs with a 263 average. So Drury, I know he qualifies at first, second, and third, great versatility. But he's a guy that doesn't have much of a track record besides a couple seasons early in his career with the Diamondbacks and obviously last season with the Reds and the Padres. So right now I think he's an easy drop this week, to be honest. April 18th, the Yankees 0 for 1. April 19th at the Yankees 0 for 4. April 20th at the Yankees 1 for 4 with a run. April 21st versus the Royals 0 for 4. April 22nd versus the Royals 1 for 4 with a run. April 23rd versus the Royals 0 for 1. And April 24th he didn't play. So right now the last 2 games in a row, Drury hasn't played for this Angel team. And I know he got a decent contract in the offseason, but he could have been a one-hit wonder in a good situation in Cincinnati where he had an everyday chance and played in a bandbox, and then going to a stacked San Diego lineup. But now, this season, he hasn't done anything, and in week 4 already, he's a hitter I would drop, in the 5th and final hitter I look to drop this week. He is Brendan Donovan of the St. Louis Cardinals, and no doubt about it, Donovan's a hard-nosed player. He's a hustler, and this guy qualifies at every position in fantasy baseball besides catcher. So on the season for Donovan, 2 home runs, 5 RBIs, 2 stolen bases, 11 runs scored, 54 batting average, and a 311 on base in 67 at-bats. So last season, he was in the 280s as Donovan, but you're not going to get power out of him. You're not going to get many RBIs. Stolen bases might go up a little bit, but I know the versatility is great, but if he's not producing and being a monster in at least one category, he's not really a guy to hold on to, and his playing times have been on and off as well for Donovan. April 17th versus the Diamondbacks, 1 for 3 with a run. April 19th, in that one, he drew a walk. April 21st, at Seattle, 0 for 4. 22nd, 23rd, he didn't play. And the 24th, he wasn't in the starting lineup either and didn't play. So right now, still owning 69% of fantasy leagues, here's Donovan. But he's not playing as much, and he's a guy with drop. I know the versatility is amazing, like I said, but is it worth it if a guy's not really doing anything or playing enough? So that's a few hitters I look to drop here in week 4 of the fantasy baseball season.